We just got an announcement from Canada's Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland that the country will go forward this Sunday, July 1st, with retaliation against the U.S.'s steel and aluminum tariffs. They are going to be placing tariffs of 25% and 10% on two separate tariff lists that in total represent roughly $12.6 billion U.S. dollars worth of U.S. exports to Canada. Minister Freeland says they do this in sorrow, not in anger, and that these measures will be in place until the U.S. eliminates its trade measures against Canada. So that retaliation from Canada will go forward on Sunday, as Canada had outlined, in absence of the U.S. removing its steel and aluminum tariffs against Canada. Melissa?
Kayla, thank you. Kayla Tausche in Washington. Other headlines say that Freeland also says that imposing tariffs, in imposing tariffs, Canada is working closely with the European Union and Mexico. We will not escalate and we will not back down. I want to bring in our Canadian on the panel, Kevin O'Leary. Was this the right move?
It's a very interesting development, and to understand why it's occurring, you have to go to the specifics of Canadian politics, understanding that a while back, President Trump asked that dairy subsidies be removed, the 270% tariff. For example, milk powder from Wisconsin can't go into Ontario or Quebec. Now, 78 seats out of the 338 seats that determine most elections in Canada, those are the Quebec seats, are heavily subsidized in the dairy industry. Trudeau is doing the right thing. His government's doing the right thing to defend that, because this is getting pure politics internally. It's a really interesting problem, because if you look at the GDP of each province in Canada versus its neighbors in the U.S., which is the most friendly border on the world, you've got up to 49% of the Ontario's economy tied to trade with the U.S. versus single digit to all of its neighbors. So Alberta is about 29%, that's the energy, and versus 9% to its borders or its bordering states. So in the long run, this is not good for Canadian investors, of which I am one. But at the same time, I understand politics. There's no way that Trudeau is going to bend over and let him and lose in a verbal fight about supply side management, which is dairy, out of the gate. He's facing a federal election in 14 months.
Hey, Kevin.
He's got to stay strong.
It's JJ. How are you? One thing about that, though, don't you think the U.S. can certainly outlast Canada in this kind of thing? So if he puts them on, it sounds like you're saying they're hoping it's a temporary type situation. If this continues long term, Trudeau has a lot more to lose, in my opinion, than the U.S. does on this. So he's taking a big risk going into this election that you're talking about in 14 months. Don't you agree?
Yes, he is taking a risk, but there's a tide of populism sweeping through Canada. About 10 days ago, Ford, you remember that very famous mayor of Toronto, his brother just won the premiership of Ontario, the most populous, and he's learned to reduce.
Obviously, we're having some difficulty with Kevin Schott. We should note that we are expecting President Trump to be making comments about jobs and taxes from the east room of the White House that should begin any moment now. And as soon as he begins speaking, we'll go to that. I'm sure that these new tariffs levied by Canada will be a topic of conversation there. So again, we're waiting for the president to speak from the White House at any moment.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.